I'm grateful to be here. Let's go. Let's do it.
Perfect. Well, I know we touched on a little bit of your upbringing, but I like to start there because I truly believe that that's the foundation of who we are. Is what was our upbringing like? So take me back to your childhood, some of the things that particularly in sports, and how it's kind of shaped your identity and who you are, along with your family upbringing.
So being one of 5 kids, I was the youngest, so I was always kind of, I guess my older brothers would always pick on me. My oldest brother and I had a really great relationship, and the middle 2 were twins. And then we had my sister who was the oldest. But playing all kind of sports and, doing anything you can think possible as a kid. So I'm really grateful for the way I was brought up. And then my parents, I'm really grateful for the way they raised us because they did a really good job. And I'm thankful. My dad played college hockey, and then my mom played college golf, club golf. But so they had
a house full of athletes, man.
They had sports background, and the way they raised us in sports, it wasn't like there was a lot of kids growing up that their parents are sending them off to every single camp. Like I had friends who, one of my buddies played quarterback, and his dad had him in recovery boots at age 6 and all this stuff. My parents' whole thing was, if you want to be good at the sport, if you want to be great at the sport, you go out and make that happen.
Right.
So they would be willing to provide me with the resources, but I always loved the way that they encouraged us. If we really wanted something, you got to go get it.
Yeah.
So when it came for practicing for sports like basketball, I remember one time I shot, my dad was like, I'll give you $10 if you go shoot 1,000 shots. So I would write down, I went out back to we had a chain net. And so I would shoot a shot, write down a little slash mark, and then did 1,000 shots. But all to say that I love the way that they raised us, because it was not as much about the sports and our success in sports, but who we were as a person.
Yeah.
And then that translated into sports.
Now, before we kind of get into your college career, as you were going through a boarding school, was it required to play multiple sports, or was it spending a lot of time, doing a lot of different things early on? Did you finally decide that I'm just going to focus on football?
Yeah. So at the boarding school, it was broken up into trimesters. So we had 3 different sets of the schedule or the calendar year, and we had to play a sport in every single one. It was a mandatory requirement, which I love, which I think is awesome.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think
it's
great.
incredible. So I started off, I did tennis, basketball, and then football. Well, as time went on, I loved all those sports, but dropped tennis. And then it was okay, I'm going to go into track, because we had our football coach, our running back coach, a guy named Brian Stevenson.
Old school, huh?
Old school as heck. Yep. That's literally the best way.
Football players run track, baby. Here we go.
So that's what he got us into. He was trying to encourage guys to get into track. So went from football, basketball, and tennis to then football, basketball, and track.
Yeah.
And then even as time went on in my junior year, it went to football, track.
Yeah.
So you could choose, you couldn't necessarily choose, because it wasn't like football was year round,
right?
But the way to do football year round was football, track.
Right.
So that's what I ended up doing. And again, very grateful for the way that we had to do something. And boarding school was a great thing for preparing me for college, because we had freedom in a sense of classes, it was block period. So whereas at high school, I'm at school for X amount of hours of the day.
Yeah.
Boarding school, I could have class at 8 to 10, and then I could be free for 45 minutes.
Right.
Do what I want to go. I could go get a lift in, could go do whatever I need to do. So we had structure, but an ability to maneuver among that structure, so that we'd be prepared for college, which was awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're going through your junior year, get to your senior year, are you highly recruited, or is it, you're just trying to do everything you can to get noticed?
Yeah, I was doing everything I could to get noticed. So I'll go back to I'll never forget these memories. So boarding school, we had a quarterback who was a 4-star/5-star at the time, my junior year. I wanted to play college ball so bad. And so, like I said, I switched track, and then football. My quarterback, though, who was highly recruited, coaches would fly in from all over to see him, practice, whatever. And the only time, because they couldn't necessarily, I think, come to practice, or it didn't work out, or it was in the spring, they had to come see us in the morning.
Okay.
So my quarterback could be Mac. His name was Lyndall Stone. He's like, you want to come catch for me? I called, and probably in front of 60 something Division I, high level coaches.
Right.
And I would get up, and it would be about 4:30 or 5 a.m., get out of my dorm, go walk. And sometimes we even had to throw inside a gym because it was too cold outside, or it was raining outside. But for morning after morning in the spring, I remember get up, like I can't even, it's dark outside. I'm walking and would go and take every single opportunity to throw in front of those coaches. They weren't there to see me. They were there to see him. But my thing was any and all eyes I can get,
right.
I'm going to make sure that I do that. And so just amped up my level of training when it came to football and was getting up every single morning, throwing with my quarterback, whether there was someone coming to watch or not, we were going to get up and we were going to throw in the mornings. And then when we talk about post that, like my junior summer, I was driving myself to camps. Like, again, when I talk about my parents, they said they were awesome, provide me with the resources. But if I wanted to go to a camp and get seen like a South Alabama camp or a Troy camp, whatever, I was looking up the registration. I was registering myself and I was driving to the camp and going out there. I didn't have any parents with me. It's not, they didn't love me. Yeah. They supported me, but they knew if I really wanted to go get something that I was going to go get it. And then when we talk about recruiting wise, definitely not highly recruited. Yeah. I had to really put myself on the map any way possible. So I was going to, at school, like our high school football coach took us to like a Nike combine thing. Mm-hmm. So I went to that. And then there was other showcases that we had the opportunity to go to on the weekends. That's what I'd be doing. Right. I'd be going there on the weekends. I was on Twitter. I was DMing coaches. I was freaking calling coaches on it's that
full-time line. Job for you.
Yeah. I was like, I literally would look up the number of like, so-and-so football coach and call it. It was like their toll-free number. Yeah. But I would leave a message. I'm like, hey, it's Mac Hereford. Like, would love to get in touch with so-and-so coach, because I had to do anything and everything I could to get eyes since I didn't have them already. Yeah. And we had some highly touted players on our team, which made it good. Like, I think my senior year, we graduated with 14 guys that went Division I. Yeah. So we had a lot of guys. Right. And I had interest from D3, D2, smaller level D1, but no like crazy offers or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what do you think that taught you? It's just that portion of having to show up every day, take an opportunity that wasn't really for you, but the mindset that you had to create for yourself to know, hey, this is also my opportunity. What are some of the pieces that you learned in that process about yourself?
Yeah. Because I was about to say there's a lot of other things I learned, like how political it is, everything like that. But no, it just taught me that, one, I can do it. Like if I really put my mind to it, it's if I'm not going to be here at this level, if I'm not going to have the eyes already here, what I'm going to have to do to increase over here. Yeah. And so it taught me that that literally an obstacle it can be in the way, but there's always a way to maneuver around it. Yeah. There's a way to make something happen if you really want to make it happen. So it taught me a lot of resilience and dedication and hard work, and really learning that, hey, if there's an obstacle, you can get around it. You just got to figure it out. Yeah. So I would say just it prepared me in life for the ability that doesn't just end in high school. That's going to come it's going to come continuously in life.
Well, that's what's so important, exciting about this conversation, and why I think it's important for people to hear, because it, as an athlete, we get locked into these tunnels where this is what's happening right now. This is our schedule. This is where we're going. This is how we're going. And you sometimes don't think about what's outside those tunnels. And so hearing your story, it's that not everybody's path is the same. And so you had a path that you've had to carve out for yourself, but then two, you wasn't waiting on a handout.
Yep.
There was no handout for you. And so you had to put the work in. And so I think that, those aspects of what makes us who we are goes back to that foundation of what your parents, they set that standard for you. Yep. Hey, you got to go get it. And it sounds like you started to go get it. And so you bring yourself to your senior year, and you have some offers at some other schools, but you wanted to go play major D1 football. So what gave you the confidence in yourself that you can go and walk on at the University of Alabama?
This is a loaded question because I think about it all the time, but really I go back to when I was younger, I had a goal, and that goal was to play at the University of Alabama. Mm. I had put down in a little kid's book, when people are like, what do you want to be when you grow up? People put like astronaut, police officer, doctor, whatever it was. I didn't put NFL player. I put Alabama football player. Yeah. So I had a distinct goal that I was chasing throughout my life. And I knew if I put in this amount of work and this amount of time, especially all those mornings getting up and running routes with my quarterback in high school, I guess it was probably my freshman year. I was like, I remember being in the shower after practice, and it popped up in my head, like, I'm going to play at Alabama. And I had that confidence that just stuck with me because I knew because of how hard I trained and how much time and effort I put into it, that it was achievable.
Right.
And I was going to go get it. And I guess there was times where, I may have said like, hey, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that or not. But really in the back of my head the whole time, I had that delusional confidence that like, I don't care what it looks like right now, but I'm going to be there and I'm going to get that opportunity when the time comes. And my senior year so I went to their camps. I went to Coach Saban's first camp in 07, 08. Like I went to like 4 or 5 camps as a kid, got the Nick Saban award they give out at the camps or whatever. That's really for intangibles.
Yeah.
I would say I was a great athlete, but not to the level of some of these guys. For me, is just the work ethic that I had.
Yeah.
And then so get a little bit of recruited, go to some games from them, and then get a call from one of the staff there that says, hey, like we want to offer you a preferred walk-on spot. And as soon as I got that call, I was like,
yes.
Yeah, I'm in. Let me go.
Now that you're in this program, what was it like to compete every single day in a Nick Saban program? I mean, the margin for error is very, very small there under him, I can imagine. So what was that process like, kind of being that first week, that first month, being in that program?
Yeah, I would say that. So it was my lifelong dream. And as a kid, as a fan, you look up and you see these people and they almost seem like characters.
Yeah.
These star running backs. I grew up, I watched Trent Richardson, who was one of my favorites. Tyron Pro-Throw, wide receiver, like one of my
broke
favorites.
His leg, right?
Yep.
Yeah, man.
Ended up breaking his leg. So sad, but incredible player.
Yeah.
Didn't have the biggest size, but was just fascinating catches, had the behind the other player catch, he would jump like 20 feet damn near in the air. So I grew up watching these guys and I always looked at them and I'm afraid that sometimes I idolized athletes when I was younger, which I think we tend to do as kids, but getting there. So I show up on campus and I think there was a little bit of that, like, holy cow. But then shortly in those first, little bit of time, I realized that one thing that can separate people is the intangibles. And I'm not going to let that be a separating factor. Like I'm going to work just as hard as everyone else, if not harder. Right. So those first times coming in, I was like, damn, like we're running sprints. We're getting up early in the morning. I'm seeing how much some of these people are lifting. I'm like, shit, like this is a lot of weight. Like I got to be able to do this. And, you can see some guys are just more athletically gifted than I am, but I wasn't going to let that stop me.
Right.
Like I said, it was constantly like, okay, what are the factors that make this guy better than me?
Right.
All right. Is he got this factor good? I don't know. I'm going to figure out each and every little thing I can do to make my, if you have like a creative player on NCAA football, you got all the little sliders. Like mine may be lower on speed. It may be lower on strength, but I'm going to make it all the way on. Yes.
Yeah.
Every single intangible is going to be 99.
Right.
And I'm going to make sure it gets there. And other things, whether it comes on like hands or just footwork or learning how to break out of a route. So that whole first period was awesome, actually. And I loved it. I think, too, I was so excited just to be there that alone had me just so fired up. Like, I remember that freshman summer, we're running 110s, and I'm, like, dying. Yeah. And I'm, like, after it, I'm walking away. I'm sweating. I'm drenched. And I came in early with everyone else in the summer, and I'm like, damn, I love this shit. And one of my teammates is like, Mac, shut the hell up. Like, get out of here. I'm like, bro, I love it. And they're like, you're crazy as hell. But that's how I was. I was just so excited to be in there in this first upcoming month. So although it was tough and challenging, it didn't really faze me at all.
Yeah. Is there times where you start to doubt yourself, and how did you keep your composure as you were trying to work through some of those challenging times?
When it came to like just being there and knowing I belonged, I don't think I ever doubted myself. Yeah. Like I really don't. I think because of the things we talked to prior, whether it was the way I worked in high school, whether it was the way I worked as a kid growing up, like I knew I should be there.
Yeah.
Like I knew I belonged. And so if there was ever a time, now we talk about doubt, maybe on like a 110 and we're 18 110s in and I'm sitting there like bending over like, damn, I don't know if I can do this shit. Like, I got to run one more 110. In the moment, I may have been like, damn. But what brought me back those times was like, I always remember looking up because they told you focus on like the horizon in the running. Because if you look just at the, right where you got to go to, it's going to be a lot harder. Right. So Scott Cochran used to tell us like, look off into the distance. So I look off into the distance and I had a grandfather that passed in high school that was really special to me my senior year. And so I'll look off in the distance and it would be like, I think about him. I think about my family. I think about everyone that believed in me and helped me get to where I am.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I had any doubts, they're out the window.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing this not only for myself, but everyone I care and love about and have loved, you know?
Yeah. As you look at, you guys went on and won, national championships, and you're part of this culture of just winning. And, a guy like Nick Saban is an absolutely unbelievable champion. And then, you guys win a national championship. What did that culture really teach you about consistency? What did it teach you about, hard work? And what did it teach you about just life in general?
One of the quotes I love that Coach Saban would say is focus on your vision, not the circumstance. Same sort of sense as don't let your feelings or emotions determine how you show up.
Yeah.
And I take that into a deeper level when we talk about the standard that was required.
Yeah.
Like there was one time I remember I'm driving to an early lift about 6 a.m. I bumper tapped this person. Thankfully, no one was hurt. Yeah. Bumper tap someone. I'm really tired. I get out of the car. I'm like, I'm not worried about my car. I'm not worried about me. Yes, I'm worried about the other person. I'm worried that I got to make lift on time.
I'm going to be late.
That's what I'm stressing about. So I get out and I tell the girl, I'm like, look, we don't have to call the cops. Nothing. Like take pictures, take a lot of pictures. I'll get insurance, whatever. We'll figure it out. Like I'll get my insurance involved. I didn't even know. I was like, let's just get I got to get over there. So and then in that same night before, I had a friend in high school pass away. So I was already really tired. I stayed up late. So then the bumper tap. Then I'm just hauling it to the practice facility, and you have to be the way the lifts work is, guys get there 15, 20 minutes early. You get into your stuff. We got to be tucked in. We got to have the shorts on. We got to have the shoes tied, certain socks on. Everything has to be the certain way.
Right.
So I get there. I'm like rushing. Like I'm like taking my clothes. I'm throwing on my stuff. Like I sprint down the hallway. We have to get in this area called the hole before the lift, which is just in this like little hallway where everyone has to get lined up before they even blow the whistle to come out. So our lifts weren't like, hey, we go, it's whatever lift.
Gym, yeah.
You get there and then Scott Cochran blows a whistle. Everybody sprints out at the same time, like sprints out. And then we start doing like the plyo, like the warm up, everything we do before the lift. So I'm coming in, I get changed. I sprint down the hallway and literally I see the guys going. I'm right behind them. I'm sprinting. I'm like tucking my shirt in as I'm running. And I get in there and I remember one of our coaches, I'm not going to say his name, but he looks at me and he's like, what do you think you're doing? And I'm like, I'm jumping in the lift. I thought I got away with it. I'm like, all right. Like, and I'm thinking about all the stuff that happened. Like, surely they would be grateful that I made it on time, being through a bumper tap, staying up all night, losing sleep from this like situation from one of my buddies from high school. But he says, Matt, he said, push. And I'm not going to say all the language he said, but he said, push the freaking plate. And I was like, what? Like, he said, push the freaking plate. So I get down. We had to take a 25-pound plate, 45-pound, I forget what it was. And we had to circle the whole entire weight room pushing the plate until they tell us to stop. So I'm pushing a plate. And meanwhile, I'm pushing this plate. I'm pretty pissed off. I'm like, all this shit just happened. They should be thankful that I'm okay and I made it here on time. And I remember after that, I went up to that same coach and I said, Coach, remember we're humans. Like, remember we're people too. And he looks at me, he doesn't say a word. I come back out to practice later that day. I'm like doing my stretch. We got the bands on. I'm doing hamstring stretch. He looks down at me. He's like, Matt, if you ever say some bullshit like that to me again, he says, you're going to get your ass beat. The whole reasoning I say that story is the standard. And I told my dad at the time, some of that stuff frustrated me.
Yeah.
But the reason they did that was because if they demanded that standard of excellence and being able to show up no matter what was going on in your outside life, there wasn't an ability for anyone to make excuses.
Right.
There wasn't an ability for someone to say, hey, I don't feel like practicing today. This XYZ happened. You had to show up. So you never let your feelings or your emotion determine that. So it was an incredible thing that I learned for not only that time, but if I was going to build a business, that's how you do it. It's not that they didn't care about us. Yeah. They care about each and every one of us, but it was you show up, you do what you're supposed to do. This is your job. Yeah. And you come in and work. And that was one of the times that like was incredible for me to learn looking back at it. Like, it's like, damn, like I like that they did that and I understand why they did that now. But Coach Saban was one of one. And the stories that he told, he had an ability to not only get people to do things that he wanted them to do, but he could do it with every single individual person and player. He knew what would make Mac tick. Yeah. What would make Mac do this? Is Mac a guy who's better with this kind of coaching or not? He knew that for every single player and had a unique ability to do that. And people ask me constantly, like, what was Coach Saban like? And I'm like, all right, it's hard. Like we weren't like friends. We're not like buddies. People don't understand. It's not like high school football or whatever. But he was a guy that we respected and feared. When he came into the building, like we would be in team meeting rooms and everyone's talking, getting ready for the meeting, whatever. And we had to always be there early because he said, if you're not early, he said, if you're early, you're on time. Right. If you're not, you're late. Right. And so if you're on time, you're late. Right. So we would all be in there 5-10 minutes prior to team meetings. We're all chatting it up. You see him walk in with his clipboard, his glasses, peering around, dead silence. You could hear a freaking pin drop in that room. It was so much respect for him. And you're talking about guys who think they're the star. You're talking about guys who are putting up insane numbers, know they're going to go drafted first round, whatever it may be, but they respected him. Yeah. And he was a guy that he knew and cared about each individual player, but he didn't let the feeling side. He kept that relationship distant in order that we maintain that respect, right. Yeah. Which was an impressive thing he did as well. But yeah, I can go on and on about Coach Saban, but being in that environment was incredible because the way he coached and the way that everyone bought into what he preached was next level. Yeah.
Two thoughts I think about that. You're a strength coach in that weight room. I feel like when you look back on these things, hindsight, as a young kid, you don't realize this. And as we talk to your story, you had the mental toughness. What they were training was your mental performance and being able to help you compartmentalize those outside things that doesn't affect your play on the field, because that's where that's the make or break.
Yep.
For athletes is how are you able to control those negative thoughts, the issues that come up that's outside of your control. Between the lines, you should be able to compartmentalize those things and go play. But we also, like you told him, we're human. Yeah. And the human mind does its own thing. And so that's what they was training there. And then the other fact of you, I'm glad you mentioned that Nick Saban was one-on-one. Not everybody has that innate ability to know exactly what each player needs. Yep. I will say another guy like that was Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll's a guy who knew how to coach each and every single guy to the best of his ability, know how to pull it out of them. And I say that because that's what we focus on a lot, especially within the work that I do from a psychology and a technology standpoint, being able to get some consistency of looking at these intangibles that are hard, that's been really hard to quantify, but now that we can quantify them and give people more awareness around the cheat codes to themselves of how I operate, but also helping the coaches do the same thing. And so it's just those pieces that you just mentioned really overlaps and just got me thinking about that.
I was going to say, I love that you say the fact of the mental part, and especially when we talk about strength coach, a guy who had a massive impact, on me was Scott Cochran, who's now at West Alabama, head coach there, undefeated so far, is his first head coaching gig. That's awesome. Awesome. That's awesome. But when we came in early workouts, this is another story that I'll never forget. We're running and stuff, and we get a guy, we're doing stadiums, and we get a guy who has like a hamstring. He's like, damn, like he's like holding his hamstring. A coach is like looking at him like, what do you think you're stopping? And so he's like, keep going. This guy's hobbling up the damn stairs. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, this is crazy. Like, what have I got myself into?
But You can't do that anymore.
You can't do that. But so I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is insane. The reason why we did a lot of the things we did in the weight room, like people say, oh, y'all didn't do this. Or even when I lift now, I lift a different way. And it's like, y'all might not lift a certain way or whatever. The whole job of the weight room, people think, was to build physical strength, which Scott Cochran was damn good at. But the thing that he cared about more was that mental side. Our whole job in sprints in the weight room wasn't to keep you all safe, wasn't to, sometimes I look back and I'm like, damn, like, if a guy is at Alabama and he's a star and there's a star at a different school, a guy at Alabama's probably been through a hell of a lot more. Yeah. But the whole reasoning was because he was going to make it so that your mental was so strong that when we stepped into a game and we knew, and you're looking across from the guy across from you, there ain't nothing that can break you because you've already been broken every which way freaking possible in the weight room, on the field, the way we practice. So that was I love that you bring that up because that was our special sauce. Was that, and we had the ability at Alabama to do that because we had another guy 4 strings back. It was a 5-star. You know what I'm saying? Like a baller. You drop one guy, drop the next guy comes in. You wouldn't even know it is a difference for the most part. You know what I'm saying? So.
Alabama recruiting. Well, no, man, I think it's amazing what you guys accomplished there at their program, and I think it's definitely one to really sit back and pick apart how did Nick build it the way he did, and so and I'm sure he's a guy that can sit back and look at the program now and be very proud of what he's done. So with that being said, we like to jump into a little quick 2-minute, and these kind of some rapid fire questions that I like to do. And so don't feel if you need to pass on one, feel free to do that. All right. First one, funniest Nick Saban story that you can share.
Definitely, and I've said this one a couple of times, but one of my favorite is Garrick Dieter. My freshman year, Garrick Dieter transferred from Bowling Green. We're in the team meeting room. The week before week 1, we played USC, and Garrick Dieter had a great touchdown catch. Goes up. I can remember this clip. He points up the sidelines doing the number 1 or at the stadium with the fans and whatever. So we're in team film the week after, and we're all coming in there, and Coach Saban stops it on Garrick looking up and doing like the number 1s to the fans. And he said, and he's quiet, and everybody's like, what's going on, And he looks back and he says, "You don't celebrate with the freaking fans." He's like, "You didn't even have fans at Bowling Green." He's like, "Celebrate with your teammates, damn it." It like starts going off, ripping into him. But that was the first, because those first impressions, that was the first time I'd seen Saban have this funny side that like everybody in the locker room was losing it. It was absolutely losing it.
That's awesome. All right. What's your favorite game that you ever suited up for at Alabama?
Honestly, I would say that there's a lot of great moments that I've had, whether it was after a playoff game. I would say one of the most fun memories or experience I had, because I love my family, and they're just amazing, is a playoff game where we had beat Washington my freshman year. Yeah. And one of my older brothers was what's called a capstone man for the University of Alabama. They take people on tours. They know everything about campus. It's a high honor to be chosen for that. Yeah. And for that, as seniors, they take them to the playoffs or whatever bowl game we go to, and they wear these crimson suits. So my brother's sitting at the end of the end zone, and we win that game. And I didn't play any my freshman year. And after we won that, we're in the playoffs. It's my freshman year, and I'm like, "There's my brother over there." And I sprint over there. All my other teammates, the wall is about maybe 8 feet high. And they just jump up there. I see my buddy TJ Simmons. He flies up there. I'm running. My dad has a video of this. It's ridiculous. But I go jump up to see my brother. I nail the wall. And then he and his buddies pull me up and getting to sit there in that moment with my brother, who has grown up with me my whole entire life, seeing how much I've wanted to be here, how much I care about the University of Alabama in general, be with me, and for me to celebrate with him after that big of a game was a lot of fun. And then I know it's a whatever question, but another one was the Georgia National Championship, that Tua came in at halftime and we won. That game was incredible. And then, of course, the first time I ever played my sophomore year against Mercer was one of the best moments that I had suiting up. So I know it was supposed to be awesome. One answer, but I gave you 3. I could give you a lot more.
No, that's great, man. I appreciate it. Best player you ever practice against at Alabama?
So Minkah Fitzpatrick set a standard in my eyes of how, a guy with the most intangibles. And that always rubbed me the right way. And he was an incredible athlete and player. Yeah. After him, I could name, 20 guys that were incredible. And it's hard to say one was better than the other. But a guy that stood out to me day one when he came in was Patrick Surtain. I remember telling him when he came in and he was competing and practicing against me, like, "You're going to be special. You're going to be something special." Like, I can tell you right now. And it wasn't about the fact of how good he was athletically. Yeah, he has a great build and great size and strength and speed, but it was about the intangibles he had. I knew he would be great. Yeah. And then going against him as a DB, there were certain guys that were more physical. There's certain guys who like to, shadow, play a little bit of off, like different sort of styles for defensive backs. Pat Surtain could do it all, and that was one thing. He was probably one of the hardest, at least for me to go against, that always made me work harder. Yeah. How am I supposed to beat this freaking guy? Yeah. Because some guys, if you let me off the line, that's where I really do well, is because I have the ability to really create and make something happen. With Pat Surtain, sometimes he'd let me off the line. Sometimes he wouldn't. He would be all over. You know what I'm saying? And so I would say there was so many that it would be very hard because of the guys I played with.
Yeah.
Every one of them was the best at their position. Yeah. But a guy in particular that really stood out to me from the day he stepped on campus was Pat Surtain.
Yeah.
And awesome. You can see he's still having a great success now.
Absolutely. So. All right, last question for you. Best piece of advice that you got from a coach or a player at Alabama?
That's tough. This is a tough one too. Damn. I get it because it's either so many different things and it's like they're all equally valuable to me is the problem. So I would say.
Well, let me rephrase and not say the best. One that really sticks out to you that you use in your daily life that you've heard from a player or a coach at Alabama.
I would say something that Coach Saban said his mom said was, it's always nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. And I think that there's many things that he says that, I remember that had an impact on me, but that was one in particular that I think is great for just life in general. Yeah. How you treat people. Yep. There he is. So that was a special one for sure.
Man, that's awesome. Well, you said something about, as we jumping back into it now, you said something about Patrick Surtain that you were able to see right away, and that was his intangibles. As a young kid, did you know what your intangibles were, or is it something that you've been able to look back hindsight and be able to put this together?
I would say during when I was a kid that I knew.
Yeah.
Not on every little thing, but just the way my parents raised me and told me about character. And I remember go back to the very first time I'm playing tackle football. I'm playing lineman. I didn't want to play lineman, and then it's like the next year I'm playing linebacker. The next year I'm playing fullback. Right. I always knew that my work ethic was an intangible that I had because I had this drive and this desire just to go out and get, whatever it was that I wanted to achieve. I was going to do it and started to see that separation, especially in middle school. We're even doing, small drills that no one thinks matters.
Yeah.
We're doing like push-ups a certain way. And my mind was always going a certain way that, hey, when we're doing these push-ups, I'm going down to the ground. Like my chest is hovering right above the ground. I'm coming back up. Small things like that. And I'm starting to look around and see other people aren't doing this. Yeah. And especially when coaches aren't watching, I'm going to these camps and it's like, we're doing a simple ladder drill. I'm going 120 through that thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then there's some kid who's jogging through it. And it's like when the coach is not looking, certain kids, that was the number one thing that really kind of showed me I had the work ethic intangible or I guess you could say a little bit of character was when the coaches weren't watching.
Yes.
What you were able to do.
Absolutely.
And I just saw myself as a kid. I always wanted to do those extra things. And then, practicing shots out on the goal in my backyard. It wasn't a good basketball goal or necessarily a good area, but hey, I was grateful to have a basketball goal. And I was out there, I was putting a freaking stick on the side of the goal so that I could practice getting contact. You know what I'm saying? Like I was doing anything and everything possible, shooting every kind of shot I could possibly do. So I'd say from a young age, I realized there were certain things I definitely had.
As you were in the locker room, with 5 stars, what did leadership look like in those type of locker rooms?
Leadership looked multiple different ways. I always thought or grew up thinking a lot that leadership was connected to vocal leadership, the guys who talk the most, the guys who say the most things. Yeah. And so when I got to Alabama, I was looking at it's like, all right, in high school, my quarterback was very vocal, doing all this. And it's like, you get to Alabama and then you have Minkah Fitzpatrick who says about 3 words, but his leadership in the way he does things, in the way he operates, in the way he trains, in the way he treats other people, that was leadership. You know what I'm saying? And he practiced what he preached. If he said something that was going to be important, you knew that coming out of his mouth. Right. But Minkah Fitzpatrick, that's what it looked like for him. And you got a guy like Reuben Foster, and it's like leadership isn't always fun. Coach Saban used to say this thing, and I joke with guys when we work out, and I can't say the full because I don't want to drop the whole bomb, but you can be a thank you guy or you can be a frick you guy, is how we'll put it. And what that means is a lot of the leadership that we had at Alabama, which made us successful, was we had guys who were the best of the best. And this is the kind of cool leadership that we had that Saban trained and guys did is you may have a starting 5-star guy on a linebacker.
Right.
That guy may take a rep off. And it would take a guy who's not the starter, who's been there, who's a vet, or someone who's just ingrained in the system to say, hey, so-and-so, you're not doing your job.
Yeah.
And it's not fun to hear that because your pride is hit.
Right.
And that's where it comes in, the thank you or frick you guy is like, are you going to be somebody who says thank you?
Yeah.
Or are you going to say F you? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But leadership, I know I got a little bit off of it there, but there was guys who like Minka Fitzpatrick, who wasn't as vocal, but led by the way he acted, the way he worked, the way he treated people. And you have guys like Reuben Foster who are pretty vocal, will get on to you, make you better on the offensive side. I remember, our Darius Stewart was a wide receiver that was a baller my freshman year. And I remember in 110s, I'm like dying. I'm bent over, breathing hard. And him and Calvin Ridley would just be like, get up, come on. Like, we're doing this. Like, it was encouraging, but it was also a accountability to say, hey, like, we got to finish this thing. Because in 110 specifically, like, it would get hard. And there was people that you could see, like Josh Castor, another guy for the Tide. He would always say after this thing, he would say, we are strong, we are conquerors. And he would get this chant going in 110s when we're all dying. And it's that. So you had multiple different forms of leadership. There were guys who were more vocal. There were guys who led by the way they acted and treated people. I'd say like Jalen Hurts, for example.
Man, I'm glad you brought him up because that's the one guy that when you watch the path that he had to kind of endure some things and some challenges and his willingness to stay, his willingness to be humble. And what was that leadership like? Because that guy there, from the outside looking in, seems just the most steadiest guy you've ever met.
Yeah, he came in. So freshman year, he's getting the opportunity to start after game one. Not just start, but he's having a great season.
Yeah.
He's having a great time and a great career. In that year, he was kind of kept to himself. As the year went on, he began to become more vocal and lead that offense. But where leadership on his part really stands out to me is and this is what I love about leadership in general, is you can really tell a lot about someone when they're going through the shit. Mm-hmm. Jalen Hurts starts. You think about this roller coaster of emotions. You're the man. Right. You're the guy at the best football school in the whole entire country. Right. A little bit later, one play, one half changes everything. Right. Now there's another guy, and he steps in. So that moment, not only the way he handled it after the game, the way he was happy for each and every single person, the way he was happy and supported Tua, and they come up ESPN, the first question they ask him, they're trying to get in his face, trying to get that answer. Yeah. And he gives the answer that he truly felt and meant. And that was, hey, I'm happy for these guys. And I'm just glad we won and we did what we needed to do to win. He understood the whole vision and didn't look at the current circumstance for himself. Then segue on to the media stuff, and media saying, hey, his dad wants him to go here. He's going to go here. He's going to transfer. Like, we're hearing things outside the facility. We're not even hearing, hearing it from our teammates. Right. But he had a players only meeting at one point because all these people are saying things. All these people are speculating, and his teammates were wondering, wait, what's true? What's not true? Right. And the coolest thing was in a time where you have a guy that was the guy who now has to sit behind the guy who could play anywhere else, comes in, holds a whole entire team meeting room, talks in front of the whole entire team, all the players on the team, no coaches or anything like that, and basically tells us, like, I'm 10 toes down. I'm here. I'm going to give y'all my best this season. I know that, I'm going to be here. If Tua goes down, I'll be ready, is basically the thing, and that he was going to give it his all. And not only did he say it, you're talking about practice, like throughout the year. Again, you may think, like, some guys may just be like, all right, like, I'm done with this. I'm going to kind of just like whatever, because you feel a little bit disrespected. Yeah. You may feel like, I won all these awards. I bought us to the national championship game. Like, what is going on? I had a great season the year before. But he didn't do any of that. He never pouted. He never sat there and let his emotions dictate how he was going to show up in practice. Yeah. Every single day, he was grinding, working hard, and being a leader, not from the front now, not the guy who was whatever, but now he was still a leader on our team. Right. And that's I love that kind of leadership, is the ability when you are not that guy to still have that leadership. Yeah. And he was that guy. He just wasn't getting to play. He wasn't the guy, the starter. And I think a lot of people think, oh, the starters are the only people that can be leaders. Like, hell no. Yeah. Like, it's not going to stop me from being a leader or impacting people in a certain way just because I didn't play as much. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So he's a guy who's something special. And then after that, I remember he goes to Oklahoma and does so well. And I always told people, I said, Jalen Hurts is going to go for, like, I love the intangibles because that's what I see.
Yeah.
That's what I value the most when I look at players and when I look at athletes and other guys and know, hey, are they going to have success? Well, you look at a guy like Jalen Hurts, he had the intangibles. I knew he was going to be successful.
All of these pieces this work ethic and things that you've created, that you've had to endure in this program, how much of that did you carry out as your foundation of what you're doing now, creating content, being a motivation speaker, things like that?
Going through all those things, one, it was an incredible experience that I will always cherish. And I didn't, I look back at it. Sometimes I was so focused that I didn't take it all in, and I'm like, damn, I really played here with all these certain people, but I just thought I knew I should be there. But talking about after ball, the transition at first was very difficult. I think for any guy, but my identity, and it's hard for your identity not to get wrapped up into that, was football at Alabama. That's how the whole world looks at it and treats you. And, all the fans, it's incredible. And you're part of this great program your whole life. We're in that facility from 7 a.m. And then we have a couple of classes and stuff, but we're leaving at 7 p.m.
Sun up to sundown.
And then we're going after that to review film on your own if you want, trying to get better, throwing after practice, whatever you're doing. So my identity was a lot in that, which I think made it very challenging post-ball mentally. I had other things set up because when I was at Alabama, I was preparing for what I didn't know would even be there. Yeah. I was always preparing. I knew I had plan A, and plan A was it. But that doesn't mean I can't grow as a person, because it wasn't that I was making, a lot of people don't have a plan B. It's not that I had hey, this is what I'm going to do. I just knew I was going to build and become the best person while at college and maximize every opportunity I had while being there. So I get out. The transition is tough mentally because my identity was in something that is not, it dies down. It ends.
Fleeting.
The game ends. Yes. And it seems awesome when you're in there. So that transition was tough. But then when you talk about segueing into work, I never necessarily wanted to work for a group or work for someone, but rather work with people.
Yeah.
And it's very challenging to do that independently because it's hard to trust certain people. It's hard to know how to maneuver. What is this? What is that? And you're learning stuff on your own. Joining a team or joining a business or an organization, you get all those resources.
Right.
You're provided with a team. You're provided with this. And so I'd say that if I didn't play at the University of Alabama, I don't know if I would have success in this other stuff, because now, so like you mentioned, content creation was one of the three different things I did. And then I started my own business. It was consulting with predominantly startups, helping them out as almost like an accelerator. And then the third thing was kind of just an ultimate dot connector and working with brands and businesses and helping connect all those dots. So I had those three different things going on, which could be a challenge. But what did I do that I learned at college is I set up in a world that's crazy and I don't really have a lot of structure because I'm on my own. I set up structure. Yeah. I work out Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, every single day of the week. Yeah. I train like I used to. We do sprints, we do agility, we do all this other stuff. We do weightlifting. Then what do I have after that? I have something scheduled after that. I show up, I'm on time, get that done. So the scheduling and knowing, hey, here's where I want to go, this process that Coach Saban used to preach all the time of here's where you want to be. What do you got to do from A to get to B? Mm-hmm. What do you got to do? And each and every step to get there, that vision you focus on, you set certain goals and you start doing those things. Right. And what you do today, you'll thank yourself for tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So that's that all kind of came into the business work world. And now I'm doing some private equity and venture world kind of things. But that all definitely helped me build a structure off the intangibles and the things that Coach Saban preached. And then also small things like, he always used to preach being the best at whatever you do. If you're going to be a street sweeper, he used to say, be the best street sweeper you're going to be. I think that was like an MLK quote that he used to go to all the time, because if you're going to do one thing right, you got to do all things right. Right. And so post ball, the transition again, mentally was really tough at the front part of it. Had to endure a lot of adversity that way, but learned that, hey, I got to stop feeling sorry for myself. I got to get up and start doing stuff. And luckily I'd set myself up well for that, and then continue just to find solutions. And so those things definitely came with me and helped me continue, and they still do.
Hey, those skills are transferable, man.
How to work with people.
They're transferable.
Yep. Yeah. How to set a standard, how to hold yourself to that standard and show up. It's really got to mean something to you, and you've really got to go out there and get it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, man, as we start to wind down here, a couple more questions for you. As I like to ask these, especially in the day and time we're in right now with young athletes who are going through social media, that's going through, looking at, the NIL space, looking at transfer portal. What piece of advice would you give a young athlete who aspires to kind of get to that next level, but also when they're in it, how to stay in it?
I would say if you're trying to get to that college level, if you're trying to play at the next level, the thing that I would say that stuck with me is, and if people could hear this, is like, you can do it. You've got to figure out a way to do it. You've got to put the processes in hand. So like for me, it was, all right, I'm under recruited. I have some good players around me. What can I do to be better? What things can I work on to be better? And is that in life? Is that in everything? Like, how can I just improve? So being the best you can be in the classroom was important to me. Right. You got to show up in class. You got to be on time. You got to take your classwork seriously and importantly, because the mental that it's helping you develop and the skill set that it's helping you develop, besides learning, like, look, I get it. Some people are sitting there like, why do I got to learn this math problem? I'm going to play college ball. It's not about learning the math problem. It's about what you're doing, the discipline that you have to be able to accomplish that.
Right.
So I'd say focus on doing everything you can to be the best, whether it's on the field, in the classroom, wherever it is. And then the fact of you can get there, and you might not be where you at this certain area that you think you can get there, but figure out a way to get there.
Yeah.
Put more work in and outwork everyone. Everyone says, oh, I want to outwork someone. It's not that I'm saying just go never sleep and keep grinding, because I'm not that kind of guy. Like, I don't believe in that, but do the things that you think are important to getting there and figure out a way to do it, and you can accomplish it. And then transitioning to guys who are making the decision, the biggest thing is NIL has changed everything.
Yeah.
It's all about money.
Yeah.
People should be focused on, and Coach Saban said this, I got to open for him speaking at an event recently, a past couple of months ago. One of the things that he said about this new NIL area that stuck with me was all these kids are looking at who's going to pay me the most. Yeah. Where can you provide the most value is where you should be going. Yeah. Obviously, the money is a factor. And I understand that there's certain people that money is a huge factor, but you should think about, really try to think, where can I provide and make the most value? Not what can they do for me? Where can I make the most value for them? Yeah. So in this new NIL era, to not get too wrapped up, it's fun. There is a thing. I encourage people, and I think it's great that people do marketing things and get out there, and that's how a lot of guys are going to get paid and continue to get paid. But keep the main thing the main thing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And wherever you're going to end up going, make sure you're going to be happy with or without sports, right, or football, whatever it is. Make sure you're going to love that university, because you don't know if it ever changes. That part is going to be going like that.
Like that, man. Keep the main thing the main thing. All right, last question for you. This is one of my favorite ones. As you think about your career, your life, your upbringing, all the things that has made you who you are, what are those, 3 to 4 intangibles that has made you who you are today?
Let's say one is work ethic, 100%, just knowing that if there's something out there that I want to get, that I've got to do certain things to go get it. Yeah. I would say work ethic, and then just genuine love for others. Treating people the right way. We talked about that a lot, but like treating people the right way is more important than any sport, than any other thing you can do. My faith, just staying close to my faith and my family, and realizing that's what's important. And discipline too. You have to have discipline to be able to do the certain things that I'm talking about, the certain intangibles. And so being disciplined and understanding and just finding a way. Yeah. Like always finding a way. There's always a way. You just got to find it.
Man, that's awesome, man. Mac, man, your story is a great story. It's a story that talent doesn't. Talent alone is not the definition of success. You got to have those intangibles, and the tangibles that you have, the work ethic, the discipline that you've been able to cultivate throughout your life to do what you've done in your career and to take that foundation outside of sports is commendable to you, man. I really appreciate you jumping on, sharing your story. I think a lot of people learn a lot of things from your story, and especially young kids, about how to really create that structure and set yourself up for success outside of what your athletic abilities are. So really appreciate you joining us on the Tangible Podcast.
Thanks for having me on. I've had a blast. It's a great time, and I appreciate you.